the U.S. Navy submarine was gone. 1 minute, it was on the screen, and the next, it vanished into the deep Atlantic Ocean. This was exactly what the American commanders expected. Their submarines are the best in the world! They are silent, invisible, and impossible to catch. For years, American sailors joked, "Nothing finds us unless we want to be found." But on a cold morning during a NATO exercise, a British voice came over the radio. Target identified. The Americans were shocked. They stared at their empty screens. If their own advanced computers couldn't see the submarine, how could the British? Flying 3,000 feet above the waves was a strange-looking plane. It was big, bulky, and looked like an old airliner from the 1960s. This was the RAF Nimrod MR2 to the Americans. It looked like a museum piece. But that day, this old British plane hunted down one of America's most advanced submarines. It found it not once, not twice, but 3 times. How did the plane that Britain refused to retire manage to beat the world's best submarine technology? Welcome to Hidden Valor. Today, we tell the story of the day the U.S. Navy learned a hard lesson. Technology is unto everything. To understand the surprise, you have to look at the plane. The Nimrod didn't look scary. It was based on an old passenger jet called the Comet. It didn't have stealth. It wasn't fast. But inside, it was a submarine killer. The British Royal Air Force RAF had spent decades chasing Soviet submarines. During the Cold War, they learned that hunting a submarine isn't about having the newest computer. It's about having the best people. The Nimrod was filled with highly trained sensor operators. These men didn't just trust a machine to tell them there is a sub. They listened to the ocean like it was a language. They could hear tiny changes in the water that a computer might ignore. The U.S. Navy relied on silence, They built their submarines to be as quiet as possible. They thought, if we make no noise, no one can hear us. But the Nimrod crew relied on science, They knew that a submarine is a massive metal object moving through water. Even if it is silent, it disturbs the ocean. It pushes water out of the way. It changes the temperature. It blocks background noise. The Nimrod didn't hunt for noise. It hunted for disruption. The exercise began. The U.S. submarine dove deep and went silent. The crew turned off all unnecessary machinery. They moved slowly to American sonar. They were invisible. Above the clouds, the Nimrod arrived. The crew began dropping sonobuoys. These are small tubes that float in the water and listen for sound. Most planes drop a few buoys and hope for the best. The Nimrod crew created a massive listening web. They dropped them in a wide pattern that covered miles of ocean. The American captain thought he was safe in the deep water, but the Nimrod operators were shrinking his hiding place. Suddenly, a buoy picked up a tiny sound. It wasn't an engine. It was just a note that didn't belong in the natural ocean sounds. Then another buoy heard it. Then a third. The British crew drew lines on their map. The lines crossed at one specific point. Contact confirmed. Submarine found. The Americans were stunned. They were doing everything right. They were silent. Yet, the British plane was tracking them perfectly. The exercise controllers announced the first kill. The Nimrod had won. Round 1. The Americans were determined not to lose again. For the second round, they decided to use the ocean against the plane. The ocean has layers. There are warm layers on top and cold layers on the bottom. Where these layers meet, sound gets twisted and blocked. It's like a sound wall. If a submarine hides under this wall, surface ships and planes usually can't hear it. The U.S. submarine dove under this thermal layer. They moved with the ocean currents to hide their motion. For an hour, it worked. The ships lost them. The helicopters lost them. The American officers smiled. They won't find us this time, they said. But the Nimrod crew was patient. They knew the submarine couldn't just vanish. The British operators weren't listening for the submarine's engine. They were listening for asterisks, asterisk, silence, asterisk, asterisk. When a big submarine moves through deep water, it blocks the natural noise of the ocean like shrimp clicking or waves crashing. It creates a shadow zone, a moving hole of silence. The British sensors saw a patch of nothing moving across their screens. Asterisk shadow zone expanding. Asterisk, the operator said. Asterisk, deploy pattern, Charlie. Asterisk. They dropped a new set of buoys right on top of the silent spot. Within minutes, they had the submarine trapped again. Asterisk contact. Second kill. Asterisk, the American room went quiet. This wasn't luck. The British were reading the ocean better than the Americans could hide in it. By the third round, the mood had changed. The Americans were worried. They decided to pull out all the stops. The submarine went to its maximum depth. It entered a cold, silent void. The crew did everything perfectly. They barely moved the rudder. They slowed the propeller to a crawl. They became a ghost. To the US sensors, the ocean was completely empty. No thermal heat, no noise, no magnetic signal. But the Nimrod crew had one last trick. It was an old Cold War technique called asterisk, pattern echo. They knew that even at extreme depth, a submarine changes the water pressure. It's tiny, but it's there. The Nimrod dropped a line of sensors along a thermal cliff, a sharp drop-off in the ocean floor. If the submarine crossed that line, it would push a tiny wave of pressure up toward the surface. They waited. 10 minutes. 20 minutes! Nothing. Then, one sensor registered a tiny flicker. It wasn't sound, it was pressure. A second sensor felt it too. The British operator smiled. Asterisk, there you are. Asterisk, they tracked the pressure wave moving through the deep water. They calculated the speed and direction. Asterisk, target held! Third kill! Asterisk, 3 hunts! 3 detections. 3 losses for the US Navy. The real shock came later in the briefing room. The US Navy commanders demanded to know how it happened. They trusted their technology. They couldn't believe an old plane beat them 3 times. The British crew didn't brag. They just slid their data logs across the table. An American analyst looked at the screens. To him, they looked empty. Where is the submarine? He asked. The British operator pointed to a tiny fuzz of static on the screen. That, he said, is your boat? The American frowned. That's just noise. The RAF operator smiled. It is noise. But it's asterisk, your asterisk noise. The Americans realized the truth. They had built a submarine to defeat sensors. But the British had trained their people to defeat the ocean. One US captain summed it up perfectly. Asterisk, asterisk, we tried to be invisible. You guys just knew where to look. Asterisk, asterisk, the exercise ended without big headlines. The Nimrod flew back to its base in the UK. There was no parade. But the lesson remained. The US Navy learned that having the most expensive toy doesn't guarantee a win. The Nimrod proved that the ocean is not ruled by machines. It is ruled by understanding. The British crew had mastered the art of listening to what the ocean asterisk was an asterisk saying. They proved that, in the deadly game of hide-and-seek, under the waves, skill matters more than steel. For the old plane that refused to retire, and the crew that could hear a whisper in a storm, this is the hidden valor. Asterisk, asterisk, if you enjoyed this story of skill over technology, hit that like button and subscribe. Let us know in the comments! Do you think human skill is still more important than